Hey everybody, welcome to my live book launch event. I am very excited about tonight, and we're just getting started here. It's 5:59, I'm 1 minute early. I'm going to set my timer for 1 hour. Boom, hopefully you can't hear that ticking too badly. Hey everybody! Hi Marisa, hi Aunt Sherry. All right. All right. Mr. Todd Harmonson.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Sounds like people are showing up. Hey, people listening, can you hear the ticking of the clock? Let me know if you can hear the ticking of the clock. I have a visual timer set. Hi, Sarah. Randy. Oh, it's so cool. People are showing up. All right. The time is here.
So I see a lot of copies of a book with a really cool cover in the back.
What? That's not on purpose. That's not product placement. Here it is, in the flesh, at last.
The nice thing is I have to read it backward.
That's right.
Scrum Life, so.
Yeah.
So how is life over at the Garvin household?
It's insane. It's totally insane. I'm going to turn the clock off. Everyone can hear it.
Yeah. Are we done?
I'm done. All things are done. Ooh, I wanted to show everybody. We're kind of going to vamp a little bit while people show up. This RV that they so awesomely had illustrated came from a photo of the RV I toured with in 7K. Same pattern on it, everything. 40-foot diesel pusher. I was pretty stoked when I saw that.
Did it ever have any of the same issues that the RV in the book met?
Similar. We got on a road that was only for passenger vehicles, and we were chugging toward northern Connecticut, and a guy came in front of us and weaved in front of us and started honking and shaking his fist, and we pulled off, and right as we pulled off the road, we saw ahead of us a 200-year-old stone bridge that had maybe 7-foot clearance. Ooh. And if this guy hadn't stopped us, we would have slammed on the brakes or had the top ripped off. And that was insane.
So how are the kids liking being home constantly?
I think they like being with family. I think they like being done with school earlier. I think they don't like having us as teachers.
I can only imagine.
Well, before we get started here, I just wanted to say a couple things. If you're watching this and you don't yet have a copy of The Lightness of Hands, between now and Friday, you can still get a signed and personalized copy from Once Upon a Time Books. It's not too late. So if you go to my website, jeffgarvinbooks.com, there's a big Buy It Now button right there, and you can go straight to Once Upon a Time and buy a signed and personalized copy. Also, tomorrow at 6 p.m., I'm doing an exclusive Zoom Q&A just for my email list subscribers. So if we don't get to your question tonight, sign up for my email list, because tomorrow I'm going to send everybody the Zoom code and you guys can sign in, and we'll have like a Q&A session where we can actually talk back and forth. Okay, last thing. I am giving away tonight 3 awesome YA books that fit the mental health scene. The first is Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. It's a beautiful book. This is Underwater by Marisa Reichart, and this is The First Time She Drowned by Carrie Kletter. They're all signed, and I'm going to give away all 3 tonight. And here's how we're going to do the giveaway. In keeping with the theme of magic, I am going to shuffle the deck of cards. So right now, here's what I want you guys to do. As you're sitting there, take a pen and a paper and think of a card. Think of any card in the deck, any card you can imagine in the deck, and write down the number or the face and the suit. So King of Hearts, Jack of Spades, write it down right now. I'm going to take 3 cards out of the deck. So here we go. We're going to shuffle. That's a terrible shuffle. I'm not a magician. I'm going to cut the cards. One more shuffle. Cut the cards one more time. Okay. First card. You don't see it. I don't see it. It's going right up here on the bookshelf. Going to cut the deck again. Second card. You don't see it. I don't see it. Putting it up on the bookshelf and cutting the cards one final time. The final card. Putting it up. So I'll call the cards at the end of the night. First you'll put your card in the comments, and then whoever's got the right card, you're going to win the prize. All right. Without further ado, welcome to my book launch.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name's Todd Harmonson. I'm the senior editor of the Orange County Register, and more important in this case, I think, a longtime friend of Jeff's and an admirer of a lot of what he does. Not everything, but most of it. I love Jeff's writing, and something that's really struck me is we're at a time of craziness right now. And some people are even calling this a war against this virus. And it made me think a little bit about what is the answer to war. And I thought Jonathan Larson answered that really well in Rent. He said, the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. And I really believe in that. The people who are creating art at this point are doing something that is incredible for us. You know, it's not as heroic as working in the front lines, and God bless anybody who's doing that. But creating something for us as a society, something that is as special as the lightness of hands, that's great, and we need that right now. So I'm thrilled to be here with you and with my friend Jeff to talk about The Lightness of Hands. This is Jeff's second novel, and as much as I loved Symptoms of Being Human, I really love this one even more. I think it's a great read, and I can't wait to talk to you all about it. So without further ado, here's Jeff Garvin.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for that awesome intro, Todd. Yes, I believe we met. You were friends of my wife, and I had to essentially audition for your approval at a Mexican restaurant, if I remember correctly.
We had met before that. You were
That's
were
right.
both in other lives at that point.
Yes.
But saw you first time, I think, was at a 7K show. And then, then there was definitely an approval process once life changed a bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. And at some point, we will open this up to questions from everybody. But we want to have a bit of a discussion first. I could do the very broad question, and I think it is important. But what was so important about writing this story now at this point in your life? I don't know that this is a story that you could have written before you were a father. I think you had to have that in your life. You also needed to have a little bit more understanding of having bipolar 2. Is it the right book at the right time for you?
Honestly, Symptoms of Being Human was such a heavy book. It dealt with, so many heavy issues. And in a lot of ways, I was exercising my own demons from high school. And to be quite honest, when I sat down to write this book, I was excited about writing an adventure road trip story that had magic. And I got to the end of chapter 1, and here came bipolar 2 inserting itself into the story, and I went like this. Okay. And I just accepted it. I had been recently diagnosed. Between Symptoms and The Lightness of Hands, I wrote 2 manuscripts and went through many drafts, and they just didn't catch. The spokes didn't catch. And about 1.5 years after Symptoms came out, I had a pretty intense mental health crisis. And when I got diagnosed, I think in a way this book helped me deal with that diagnosis and just sort of get a grip on it and explore what it had been like. Getting a diagnosis was like, oh my gosh, now my whole life makes sense. And so being able to play that out, the highs of hypomania and the lows of depression was really satisfying.
So I think I've seen you at especially the highs of your performance. When you come off of a performance and you're really buzzing, you sing or, I think that's mainly when I've seen it. That's such a thrill. But when you're writing about it, you're talking about, okay, you also know that's dangerous. And is that something that you've learned to deal with somewhat? And do people even get that there are these highs that you're going to have, and it's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world?
I think that part of bipolar is deeply misunderstood. First of all, mania or hypomania isn't always happy, fun, excitement. It can be really intense irritability or anger that seems to come out of nowhere. And for me, that's the more common. That's how it presents more often. And so performance is usually a way to channel that, and turn it into something positive. But there's a price, because there's a come down. Just like when you go chugging up that hill on the roller coaster, you stall and then down you go. And it seems inevitable, and sometimes it can ruin the high because you're just waiting for that crash and you don't know. For me, it comes about a week or two after. For instance, next week and the week after, I won't plan any activities because the high of a book coming out is intense, and I'll be worthless for the next couple of weeks. That's kind of how I manage it, is I just have to plan around it and get extra sleep and make sure I get exercise and tell my family and the people around me, hey, make me do the things that I'm supposed to do, because I'll just stay in front of my computer if I'm not pushed out.
Yeah. Many people I guess there's always been this notion that artists have one of something in them because they can write what they know, or whether it's a book or maybe it's a screenplay. Your first novel was not something that you knew. You did not know about being gender fluid.
Right.
You had to do a lot of research on that, and you got some backlash along the way for that. Can you talk about that experience of people coming at you over that, but also now, hey, this is something that you know well. And
Yeah.
is that a better situation for an author these days?
Man, I think, well, first of all, the response to Symptoms surprised me. First of all, it was overwhelmingly positive. I got very little backlash, and maybe that's just because it really resonated with people. With gender fluid people wrote me emails and said, yes, thank you, that's how I feel, and I haven't been able to put it into words. What it comes down to is I just think people are human, and if you have an imagination and you're willing to have conversations and listen and read. I mean, when I was in high school, if you wanted to write about something you didn't know about, you had to go to the library. Now you can just go on the internet and you've got hours and hours and hours of firsthand research, people talking about their experience. So the research was, quite frankly, easy. As for the bipolar thing, something's happening in literature right now that makes me deeply uneasy. And I'm reticent to even talk about it because it's so controversial. But there's something happening now where, feline editor approaches. Hang on. Come on, Dottie. Come on. She is a lap cat. She's going to say hi. Hi, everybody. This is Dottie, my feline editor. There's a thing going on where the writer's identity is somehow important to the story, or to put it more grossly, the marketing of the book. And that has a lot of positives, but it has a lot of negatives. And I got sort of queasy at the thought that my identity as someone with a bipolar disorder was going to be, to put it the darkest way possible, exploited for the conversations around this book. And I really considered not talking about it. But then I thought, there's so many people with bipolar who can't talk about it because there's a risk to their job. When people say they're bipolar, people go, oh, that's not just depression. That can cause unpredictable behavior and problems at work. But no one can fire me. I work for myself. I have a stable life with a wife and kids. My wife has great health insurance. If I can't talk about it, then really who can. And so once that kind of clicked in my head, I kind of had to put all the other stuff aside and just say, let's talk about it.
Do you think that some of what you had to write and what Ellie experiences in the book will be tough for the people who know you well, to see that, okay, that could come from you?
God, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that. I don't know. I'll have to hear a response. My wife's been reading it over the past few days, and she'll laugh, and I'll be like, "Oh, what were you laughing about?" But we haven't discussed the heavier stuff yet. So I'll be interested to see what people ask me. A lot of people haven't read it yet. It just came out, so we'll have to see.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested in that one too. So there's a lot more that that goes into this book. Magic has played a big part in your life.
Right.
Why was that important here? Was it just a fun vehicle to explore? I kind of think there's a bit more of a personal connection that you wanted to bring to life.
So the seed of it was, before I was published, I wrote my bio for my website. And when you're writing a bio when you're unpublished, you are searching for how to make your life sound interesting, because every writer did this and that and has pets and lives in a house with people. So one of the things I put at the beginning of my bio is I was born the son of a banker and a magician. And I really think those two forces shaped me. The banker is a methodical, logical thinker that wants everything to be absolute. And the magician, deals in that tender membrane between truth and lies, and is a totally unpredictable, creative person. So I put that in my bio. And as I was submitting manuscripts to agents, my friend Tara Sonnen got me a query read with an agent, and I sent my manuscript to the agent. The agent said, I like you, I like your writing, I can't sell this book, write something else. You mentioned magic in your bio, write something about that. So then that got stuck in my head. And I pitched something to her, and she said, I'll sign you based on that pitch. And I was like, no, I want to sell my book, which, by the way, got me an agent but didn't sell. And so that started spinning off in my head. And then I toured in my rock band, and there was something I had to express about being a traveling performer. It's an intense, wonderful experience, and it's a horrible, intense experience. And then, my relationship with my dad growing up, he taught me a lot about how to appreciate art through magic. I remember I asked him when I was 10 to show me this trick, the cups and balls. It's a classic magic trick. You have 3 cups, and you put a ball under one cup, and then boom, the ball disappears, and it's over here. And then at the end, there's always some kind of a big reveal. Johnny Ace Palmer, possibly the best close-up magician alive, produces, I don't even want to spoil it, he produces, oh no, I say it in the book. I got his permission actually to say it. He produces live chicks from under the cup. And you're like, where the hell did those come from? So I wanted him to teach me this trick, and he said, I will teach you, but you have to understand that when I teach you, you will be disappointed and magic will never be the same. So you really need to go think about if you want to learn it. And I did, and I had a little regret about seeing how this sausage was made. But then I started to get excited about watching other people respond. And I think that's what really got me into being creative, is I wanted to watch other people. I wanted to make other people feel how I felt walking out of The Matrix, feeling totally pumped walking out of that movie theater. I don't know if I answered the question. I started rambling.
I think you answered it. And you also kind of touched on part of what I was looking for there. I've gotten to know your dad over the years as well, and he's quite the performer. One of the highlights of your wedding cruise was seeing you and your dad perform together, and that was a wild time. Was there any choice? I know your sister's not a performer, so maybe there is a choice that you wouldn't have become that, but you certainly have those genes that creating something, art, magic, music, was going to be a part of it for you.
I think what it boils down to is I always wanted a creative life. To me, the brass ring was making every cent of the money I made to provide for myself and my family coming from creative work. Whether it's, I still get $5 checks from acting jobs I did in the 90s. I perform when there's not a pandemic. I perform in an 80s band, a ridiculous 80s band, and make some of my money that way, and then writing. So about at the end, in the middle of last year, I realized that I had stopped getting checks from my sales jobs, and everything was creative. And I broke down because it was so important to me, not only to be creative, but to somehow be a commercial artist. I wanted to reach people. I wanted to make a living doing it. I aspire to be bohemian, but I'm really more, I want to be a working artist.
Yeah, you deal with the notion of day jobs in the book a bit, and
Right.
how Ellie's father's reluctance. Well, it's something that she kind of has resigned herself to at some point, that that's the life she needs to have because it's a responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself torn at times, especially as you gotten married, have a family now?
Man, I've had some really crappy jobs in my life. But the 10 years prior to selling my book, I was so lucky because I worked for small guitar companies that supported my creativity. I got to have tattoos and wear funny hair and do part of my work from home. I'm so grateful to Tish Ciravolo and Ron Manis and Corey Oliver for giving me jobs and finding ways to let me express myself. That said, I swore I would never, ever be in sales and marketing, and certainly not follow the path my dad did. And at the very same age that he was, when I got offered my first director of sales and marketing job, I realized, hey, this is actually a really great way to make a living. And so I kind of, and I think writers have to do this, artists in general, there's a myth that suffering for art is somehow a noble thing to do. I really think the way to be creative over the long term and build a career is to find some way to support yourself that A, exercises some of that creativity, and B, provides support for your life so you're not constantly struggling.
Makes sense. So it seems like Ellie's got a grasp of that at a pretty early age, and I find that pretty fascinating. She's overall a fascinating character. What do you like about her? What are the things that, and she's not always likable, first of all, but there are some things that I think are pretty cool about her.
I think she's got just a big, giant heart, and I think she wants to do the right thing, even though she's sometimes, hamstrung by her illness. And even though, I mean, she does have resentment about her dad, and it's a really, she doesn't want to live the way she's living. But I think she wants to do the right thing. And she's tough, and she's funny, and she doesn't take any crap, and she protects herself as much as she can. And she's really hard on herself. The way her relationship with Riley isn't ideal. She blames herself. And I just think she's brave. She's brave to do what she does. She's brave to take on the mantle of doing what it takes to get her dad's career back on track, or tries to.
Where is her the image of her going on as a tattoo?
Oh, well, I hadn't decided. I've been thinking of getting some kind of bipolar tattoo. And then the guys at Agency 689, who've designed my website, I've worked with them for years. They've done all the marketing and advertising for the guitar company that I worked for, Traveler Guitar. One of the guys, I don't remember if it was Adam or Xander, said, you should make a playing card. And so they came up with this as a book plate. Nice. So everybody that pre-orders the book will get this signed with this on the back. So I think I may get the Nine of Hearts, because the Nine of Hearts plays a very special role in the book.
This
And
is
Amanda,
a
by the way, Amanda is watching. Amanda is the illustrator of this really awesome. She had to capture Ellie's angst and her beauty, and I love it.
yeah. I thought that was one of the interesting things about Ellie. The way that you write her is she's not somebody that she's not the one who people are going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to pay any attention to her." People are drawn to her in many ways, yet she kind of pushes them away. Is that something that you found in maybe in some of your struggles, that you've got a magnetic personality, but is there sometimes that difficulty that you've had?
Uh, yeah, I feel like a tornado. And in my younger years, I really chewed up relationships. Um, and I'm very lucky that my current wife is the mellowest, most positive person ever. And I still don't know if I have a handle it. But the thing that challenged me now is my kids. They are so open and loving and forgiving, and they just want to hug you. And sometimes I can't. I put the wall up, and they look at me like confused, like, why are you like this? And I don't know that I have a handle on it. I really don't. I have a great story though. One day I really lost my temper with my daughter, and she's crying. She ran into the bathroom, and I felt like a monster. And I went in there and I picked her up and I gave her a hug, and she hugged me back. And I said, everyone else in my family loves pickles, but she and I don't love pickles. And so I picked her up and I say, you know what, sweetheart, you and I have a lot in common. Well, first of all, I apologized and said, I'm a big man, you're a little girl, and I shouldn't scare you. That was wrong. And then I said, we have a lot in common. Sometimes we have big feelings and we make bad choices. And her response was, and also we don't like pickles. And, you have a moment like that, and you realize that you're one word away from soothing that crack.
Amazing. How wildly different is this experience for you in many ways than launching symptoms? Everything from when we were at a Barnes and Noble in Huntington Beach for
Yeah.
the launch of that one, and you had the kids were just new to your lives at that point. Now we have to do this remotely, and they're these humans that are such a big part of everything. Talk about that.
I mean, I quit. The book came out. We met our kids in December of 2015. The book came out in February. I quit my job in March and became, mostly full-time dad. My life changed completely in 70 days. So this experience doesn't compare at all. It's, the book was like the symptoms was the closest thing I've had to making it. And this experience is more about recovering from 2 years of creative head bashing, 4 years of creative head bashing. And so this is almost a relief. As far as having to do it online, on the one hand, by the way, thank you so much for being here, you guys. I was really worried that no one's going to show up. So the fact that each and every one, I'm seeing your comments and I'm noticing you, thank you for being here. Anyway, I was really trying to manage my disappointment because I get a thrill off of meeting people in person and meeting readers and hearing their stories and just getting the energy, just like performing live in front of a crowd. And but a little voice inside my head says, yeah, but maybe that would have been a bigger crash. And so maybe this is better. I can turn this phone off when this event is over and crawl into my bed and, not talk to anybody. So I don't know. I'll let you know in a couple weeks or maybe a month when I have some clue what's going on.
Plus, you don't have to wear pants, right?
I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing jeans, but I have really cool. I have really cool socks on that are book socks.
Nice. Oh, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank here. The the whole process of getting this to this point. This wasn't a one draft and you're done kind of a thing. Since Symptoms came out to now, what has that experience been for you in terms of the creative struggle, the give and take with an editor, finding the right story that was going to work?
Okay, well, one thing I have to tell all the new writers is just because you publish a book doesn't mean all your manuscripts are publishable. And it was tough watching other people who debuted the same year I did crank out a book every year. And that was really hard. That was that comparison is the thief of joy moment. And I went through 2 books. One of them got really, really, really close. And my editor and I we converged on this one point, and I realized that we weren't looking at the same finish line. My editor is a profoundly talented woman, and she stands for getting the best book she can. And sometimes it's really hard. But I'm so proud of this book, and she was the guardian. She's the guardian of it's going to be the best book. It's hard, man. Writing books is hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. And publishing books is even harder. You got to take notes that hurt, man. I mean, you started small and got all the way, and you have an audience that'll yell at you on the phone and write you letters. So you have to build up the skin. Yeah. And you also have to realize that whether or not you agree with the note, you failed to hit that person in their bullseye. And you can't hit everyone's bullseye, but at some point you have to balance that out. And there have been a couple times where I dug my heels in and said, no, this is a crucial part of the book. And she backed me up. And it's been the most, I've never grown so much as a creative person as I have in the last 4 years. It's like strapping turbo boosters on, but that hurts, man. That growth experience is gnarly.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate this. A couple nights ago, I was on a Zoom that somebody put together, a small group of us with Michael Connolly. And, and he's talking about his process and how he's cranking out 2 books a year.
And producing a television show. And a
2
podcast.
He's got 2 TV shows right now.
Oh, that's right, because he's doing
the Lincoln Lawyer one. That's just mind blowing, and obviously he's got a groove going, and I can't even fathom the idea of being as prolific as somebody like that. Where do you want to be, though? You want to get to Michael Connolly's stage where you're cranking like that, or is it take some of these characters and take them to Hollywood, perhaps? What is the goal for you?
Well, first of all, I love Michael Connolly's books, and when the new ones come out, I read them faster than I've ever read anything else, and he's a master. Man, I would love to be a book a year person. Maybe I'll get there. I think I'm discovering that I'm still learning what my process is. And so much about my life has changed that it's hard to tell. It's hard to untangle what part is me learning my process and what part is me adjusting to life changes. I don't have an intuition or enough insight into that. That said, I think I'm getting a grip on what works sooner without writing 200 pages of it first. I hope that's true. But I mean, I just don't have that much transparency into my process or into my future. 2 books is not many. Writing this book was learning how to, once you write a book, you know how to write that book. You don't know how to write the next book yet. That said, I'd love to be a book a year person. I don't know if I have it in me. I face a lot of psychological challenges that I didn't face 5 years ago. And so I'm still learning. how to produce.
Sure. One thing that he was asked, and I thought this was a kind of an interesting one, what makes a day productive for you as a writer?
Well, I started with the Stephen King method of get 10 pages or get 2,000 words. And the truth is there's so many different phases of the process for me that if I write till noon and I stayed focused, I get a sense of satisfaction. And it doesn't have to be about word count. It could be I gave up and I got up and I went for a walk and I had 2 good ideas. So satisfaction is fleeting for me. Maybe 1 out of 10 days do I finish and go, God, I had a great writing day. I had a great writing day. But those are so good that, it's like the rat. The rat will just keep pressing the button until the treat comes. But I also look back and I go, wow, I've got 50 good pages. It's been a month, but I've got 50 really good pages. So something must have happened. The incrementalness of it is infuriating. I came up in performing. Me good, you clap. And this is like me good, me edit, me send you pages, agent likes it. And I immediately want everyone else to like it. So I don't, does that answer the question? I don't even know.
No, absolutely. And that's where our worlds are so different. While there's writing involved and editing involved, I've got this daily product and I've got a website that is constant.
Yeah.
So there isn't that kind of a long process. We've got to have something ready. Our deadline is in about an hour to have a newspaper on doorsteps tomorrow, especially, we're going a little earlier these days without late sports. So yeah, it's wildly different.
Yeah.
There are some other things in the book that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit, especially locations. There are 3 locations that I think jump out. And there's Indiana.
Right.
There's Las Vegas. And then there's the Magic Castle. And I don't want to give stuff away about what matter or why these are important in the book, but why are they important to you?
Well, I guess I'll go in reverse. The Magic Castle, no, I'll go in regular order. So Fort Wayne, Indiana is where my parents were born and grew up. And so I've gone back there a couple times for family reunions, and I've actually made business trips out there when I was working for a guitar company. And I think the thing about it that resonates with me is how different a life I would have if I lived there. And so I didn't want Ellie to have grown up in Vegas or LA. I wanted, oh, my friend Curtis is funny. He's from Fort Wayne too. I wanted her to have grown up in a place where it wasn't as acceptable for her to be self-expressed, and that had a cost, and where she really had a difficulty fitting in. And also, like, when you drive through Fort Wayne, you see these beautiful houses and people mowing their lawns, and it's so different. It's like being in a different country. So that was Fort Wayne. Las Vegas, my parents moved to Las Vegas in 2001, and I've fallen in love with that town. Christmas isn't Christmas unless I'm in Las Vegas. They've got every entertainment you could possibly have. David Copperfield's performing 6 nights a week. Penn and Teller performing 6 nights a week. If you're a Magic fan, it's the town to be in. And I get such a special feeling. And the book has a caper quality, and there's no better place to have a caper than Las Vegas. And then the Magic Castle is a place where I spent many Sundays. You could take, when you were a kid, you can't get into the club, but on Sundays, at least it's how it used to be, you could bring your kids there for brunch, and we would go for brunch, and I would see 3 or 4 Magic performances, and I look back at the names I saw, and these are like the names in Magic. And so that became a really special place to me that not everybody got to go to. And when I started to write, I originally had this idea that there was going to be some kind of a secret thing hidden in the basement in the Magic Castle, and that evaporated as I was writing it. But I knew I wanted Ellie to be there at the end and to walk into that lobby and smell how it smelled and see the owl with the jeweled eyes and walk into the museum. And that was that was stuck in my head. That had to be in the book, and it showed up. It showed up for me.
Well, my only visit to the Magic Castle was with you and Ami and my
Oh,
wife
we got to
Michelle.
go back,
So,
man.
oh yeah, absolutely. Be a great celebration for this.
I was planning to have some kind of celebration there, and then, pop went the weasel.
Nice. Authenticity is one thing. We'll get to some questions here in just a few minutes. You work really hard at making sure they ring true, even down to the contacting me and say, hey, what would be a good baseball school for one of my characters to go to?
Right.
And shout out to Cal State Fullerton.
Cal State Fullerton, Titans.
Yeah, we'll take it. Mentioned both in your book and in Crazy Rich Asians. So we'll take whatever we get. There's work that goes into making sure something's authentic. How important is that to you to make sure that somebody's not stumbling on something and say, what the hell is this guy talking about?
I think authenticity is my fundamental value as an artist. If something doesn't feel real, it can't move you. And I think that's true for broad comedy. I think that's true for drama. I think that's true for farce. There has to be, a golf ball. Inside the golf ball is this alien-looking rubber thing that you would never recognize as a golf ball. But without it, that golf ball won't bounce. It won't go. And to me, that's what a novel has to have, is a core of authenticity. Because when it comes down to it, this is the same thing when people ask me, why do you write outside of your gender? It doesn't matter, man. We're people. There's a core of humanity. If you can't capture that, people aren't going to be moved. And I want to move people, man. I want to make them laugh and cry and think and be mad and confront their regret. I want to do all that. I really want to take people by the guts. And you can't do that unless you get them.
Love it. All right. So we have a hard stop at 7, right?
Yes,
so,
Instagram will cut us off.
Yeah. So why don't we open it up to some questions from your many fans who are on here?
Yeah.
You know the process a little bit better on Instagram Live. You want to give some instructions?
Yeah, so there should be a little question icon at the bottom, and if you tap it, you can type in your question. And I already see one popping up, and then I get to push them, and hopefully this won't be an embarrassing question. And I'm going to tap it to you so you can see it and bring it forth.
Okay. Is there anything that someone should keep in mind while reading this book?
I've been told that before you read it, you ought to know that it deals with themes of suicide and self-harm. So if that's something that's sensitive to you, just be aware of that. As far as something to keep in mind, no, just enjoy it and dive in and have no expectations. I don't even like watching movie trailers. I just want to dive in and have no idea. But that's just my personal preference. All right. More.
All right. What advice do you have for a writer who wants to write a story about their own personal experience?
Be fearless. Tear it up. And when you're writing your first draft, take no heed of what people will think. And have someone you love read it. I guess that pretty much covers it.
Okay.
Can you review the card game contest? Oh, yes. So, in fact, I wanted to say I saw all these card names come up. So, I'm giving away 3 books tonight that were generously donated by author friends. The first is Girl in Pieces by Catherine Glasgow. It'll break your heart and you'll love it. Underwater by Marisa Reichart is so beautiful, and I learned so much about agoraphobia. And The First Time She Drowned, likewise, will rip your heart out and make you love books. So the way we're doing this is at the end of tonight, you're all going to think of a card in your mind and then write down in the comment section the suit and the number. So 7 of hearts, King of spades, whatever it is, at the end. So all of you who posted at the beginning, you have to do it again at the end. I will announce, and then we'll wait a minute. Everybody will post it. And then I have 3 cards up here that I selected at the beginning of the night, and I'll pull the first one, and if somebody has that match, they'll win. Boom.
All right. So how do you compare songwriting to book writing?
Man, songwriting will build your word muscles because you don't have many words to speak. But I think it's just exercising your heart muscle. You have to capture something that's universal that others will relate to. Songwriting has a structure that's totally different than book structure, but just getting familiar with a structure so that those things are analogous, I would say.
Right.
I wish I had more to say on that, but I don't.
Well, okay, I'll follow up with one real quick on that is if somebody wants to get a glimpse of your songwriting that really resonated with you, what song should they go back and listen to?
Oh man, the song that I like the most is Who Dies First. And in fact, in that song, there's a character named Jim Vickers, and I borrowed that for Symptoms of Being Human. And that song was just high school rage, man. I could never write that song now because it deals with issues that are too close to our hearts, and that's happening in high schools right now, school shootings. But that was the first song where I really identified with a villain, someone who had taken their regret and their isolation and turned it into violence. And it was very satisfying, and I didn't actually have to be violent.
All right. What do you like to read for pleasure?
Someone said Michael Connelly. I love Michael Connelly. I'm a Harry Potter nerd. I love Stephen King. I'll read everything that comes out. Right now I'm reading I'm reading the big fat fantasy novel by Brandon Sanderson. That's a biggie. So I read all kinds of stuff. I read YA, thrillers. I kind of go across the spectrum.
Cool. All right. How do you write a memoir?
God, I have no idea. I'd rather make stuff up. I'm so sorry. I don't have a good answer for that one.
All right. What's your favorite part of the writing process, and what's your least favorite part?
This is from Randy Rebai, author of Patron Saints of Nothing, probably my favorite book of 2019. Amazing book. Thriller but it's a coming of age story too, about a Filipino-American kid who goes back to the Philippines to investigate the death of his cousin and just crushes it between the American culture and the Filipino culture. He's not American enough to be American. He's not Filipino enough to be Filipino. Patron Saints of Nothing. Go get that book. So Randy's asking, what's my favorite part of the process? What's my least favorite part? My favorite part of the process is writing that first draft. No rules, no one looking over my shoulder. I'm a genius, pouring out words that I love. And my least favorite part is being edited. I hate revisions. It's so confronting. Your editor is right, and these things don't work, and you have to cut the things you love. That's why I wish I could just skip past that part and be a genius all the time.
Can you read while you're writing?
I can. I love reading while I'm writing, but it can't be in the genre that I'm reading. It's the reason why I struggle with reading enough YA and staying current, because I can't read YA because I feel like I'm going to rip something off, or the other person's doing it better, or I haven't captured the teen voice. So I do read, but I try to read off genre and out of age group, hence the dragon book that I'm reading. All right. Oh, there's still a couple more. I'll just skip this. Yes, it's for age 14 up, but adults will enjoy it too. Typical librarian question. What are you reading right now? I'm reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I'm trying to get some questions that you can spin on here, Todd.
All right, I can only see page 1 on this one. Can you, in honor of the now late James Lipton, I will ask one of his questions. What is
your favorite sound? My favorite sound, an electric guitar. Raging electric guitar is my favorite sound.
All right. Have you been reading lately, and has what you like and to read changed during this time?
Yeah, I read I read Girl in Pieces this year, and two things happened. One, it really struck some heavy chords with me, and it's brilliant, but I couldn't read heavy YA for like 3 months. I'm like, that's it. Everything's going to be so pale in comparison to that. So I went off genre and switched, and now I'm reading that. I reread 11/22/63. I've been fully comfort reading in the plague. I've been reading books that I already know and love, just for comfort. Hopefully in the next couple of months I will stretch out again. So there you go.
All right, I can only see the first page of this. So you want to take the whole question?
My trans nephew is in grad school and dealing with bipolar disorder. How do you push through writing? I don't think you can. I think you have to take care of your mental health first. I don't recommend pushing at all. The stakes are just too high with bipolar. Not to get grim about it, but the suicide rate for bipolar people is much higher than it is in the general population. And if you're bumping up against that boundary, man, I just get some help, slow down. It's hard to reckon with the fact that you're not going to be as productive during those times, but you just have to you got to accept it a little bit.
How important, this is my question for you. How important was it for you to include some resources in there for people to seek help if they need it?
I don't know. I don't know if people flip to the back of a book for that kind of help. I feel like they Google it, but it certainly can't hurt. You know, if people get done reading that and they identify with it, there's some place to start, you know? We started that with Symptoms, and it just felt like that was the way to do.
All right. Can you listen to music while writing? And if so, what kind?
Yes. So I can't listen to music with lyrics because then I focus on the words. I listen to a lot of electronic music. I listen to Daft Punk when I'm writing something intense. There's an electronica band called Random Rab that is awesome. So I listen to a lot of their music. And I have a Pandora film score channel that I listen to. And then there's a website called Ambient Mixer, ambient-mixer.com, and it's background sound, thunderstorms, Gryffindor common room, rain on a tin roof, and it comes with 8 tracks, and you can kind of mix it. So like if you're in the Gryffindor common room, you can go, oh, I want more quill scratching, or I want more wind sounds, or the crackling fire, and I love that. I've got a couple of presets that I plug in, and it along with my noise-reducing headphones, I can almost be alone in the house, which is super, super crucial at this time.
All right. Any Easter eggs we should be on the lookout for in the book?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of names of people that I know personally that you will find in there if you know me. There are some recurring numbers that happen from Symptoms, and then there's a mention of a city where Symptoms takes place, but it's mentioned in an offhand way, where you'll go, oh, is that? So hopefully you'll catch that. What do you think we have? Time for one more. It's 6:53.
Yeah, I think we're good with one more. Are the methods of doing magic tricks described in the story?
No. So I'm really proud of this, and when I wrote it, I was terrified that my editor was going to react poorly to it, but she didn't. I play with point of view in this book in an interesting way. So the book is written in the first person from Ellie's point of view. But during performances, I switch out to third person. And part of it's a psychological shift, because when I'm approaching hypomania, I start to disassociate and really stop identifying with me being me and like I'm observing events. So emotionally it was authentic, and then I used it as a way to describe what was being seen from the audience's point of view. When you're a magician, you have to create things and think about them as the audience will see them, more than you are as a musician, more than any kind of stage performer. Magicians have to make it look a certain way to the audience. And so I was able to create, I think, the wonder of the magic. And I give there's enough discussion that you might start to think about how it was done, but I don't give away any secrets. I have too many magician friends who would kick my ass if I did.
Yeah. Some of them you call out by name in the book, by the way.
I do. Rico is a friend of mine, and he is a consultant and creates magic illusions for some of the best magicians in the world. Chris Gongora, who I just straight named Chris Gongora, is a really incredible musician and magician who I love. I worked on a reality show in the early 2000s with them on magic, and I got to see some of the coolest street magic ever. A couple of the other magicians are inspired by real people, but man, I just love magicians. They're some of the coolest people you'll ever meet because the way they think is bizarre, and they will spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours just looking at a deck of cards and trying to figure out how to do ridiculous things.
Nice. I think we're probably at that point where you should be giving away some books.
Oh yeah, wow! It's 6:55. All right, so now is the time. Now is the time to put in your card. Put in the card that you chose, and we will put into the comments. So write your card that you thought of into the comments, and we will pick one. There's a little bit of comment lag. Oh, here we go. So the first one is 6 of Spades by Rodney. All right.
4 of Hearts, 2 of Diamonds.
Yep.
3 of Hearts, 7 of Clubs.
Plug them in. Yeah, they're coming in here. I guess just in closing, I will say, let me find that first one. Where'd it go? 6 of Spades. I will say, please go to Once Upon a Time, go to my website, click Buy Now, and buy a copy of the book. First week sales make a huge difference to me. So if you're willing to buy your copy this week and support an indie bookseller, that'd be huge. Join my mailing list, and tomorrow night I'm doing an exclusive Q&A. So all the questions we didn't get to tonight, we can do those live and actually talk back and forth. And then I have another event Thursday night with Anna Shinoda, author of Learning Not to Drown and senior advisor to the Campaign for Change Direction. So please join me at that one. And then lastly, I just want to thank Todd for doing this with me.
Hey, I'm honored. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was. I was really nervous knowing the stuff we were going to talk about, and man, it was just a pleasure to have this conversation. All right, we got less than 2 minutes left. I am going to start with the first card, and it is the Ace of Diamonds. So I'm going to scroll through here. 2 of Diamonds, 3 of Hearts, 7 of Clubs, Queen of Spades, 6 of Diamonds, 2 of Clubs, 9 of Hearts, 9 of Spades, Ace of Spades, 9 of Spades, Jack of Diamonds, 9 of Hearts, 7 of Spades, 7 of Diamonds, 7 of Hearts, 3 of Spades, 6 of Diamonds, 7 of Diamonds, 9 of Hearts. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, I think that's all the cards now. No one else is naming cards. Nobody got it, so I'm going to draw the second card. And the second card just fell on the floor. The second card is the 7 of Spades. Ooh, I think someone did mention the 7 of Spades. 7 of Spades. Dean. D-A-E Design. 7 of Spades. You just won 3 books. Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow, Underwater, and The First Time She Drowned. And I am seeing that we have 52 seconds remaining, so I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Todd. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope to see you Thursday night and tomorrow night on my Zoom.
Hey, congratulations, Jeff.
Thanks, Todd. I'll see you guys later.